and welcome to my first ever live stream. I have played Gnomoria a lot, and I saw that there was a category for it here on Twitch with nothing or almost nothing in it, so I thought, I might give this a try, and here I am. So, for starters, if you've never played Gnomoria, it's a sandbox game where you can build stuff, and there's a chance monsters in the world could attack you, but I turn that off because I'm more of a cozy gamer. There aren't very many games out there where you are basically controlling almost like an ant farm. Like you have all these little gnomes and you give them jobs to do and then they go do them. Unlike Minecraft or Stardew where you're the person who does the thing, you set the task and then other little gnomes scurry in and do it for you. Dwarf Fortress is similar. It's a lot more brutal. You can turn off some of the stuff. That makes it a little easier or less, brutal with your gnomes dying all the time, but it has less stuff you can build. There's less furniture options, less decoration options. So if you want a cozy game where you can decorate, Gnomoria is more of that kind of game, I think. I thought today I would just start out going over what the keyboard shortcuts and UI is for beginners. So first up here in the upper left, you have some things that the game shows you what you have that you keep track of. So straw to feed your animals, drinks and food for your gnomes, bandages, what level of the world you're in. So level 0 is the ground level. I usually build down rather than up because you're going to have to mine anyway. So you may as well mine out the rooms. Here's some miners doing some mining. So the upper right shows you the day, the year, and what time sunrise is. Your actual time of day is here in the middle. So at the top of your user interface, you have these sort of tabs that open pop-ups. This is all about my kingdom. It tells you how many gnomes you have, how many workshops, farms, pastures, what the value of things are, your allies, list of workshops, your farms, your pastures, what different rooms you've got. Second tab is for just what do you have in stock. Quick overview of food items, drink items, weapons, armor, furniture, storage containers. Then you can look at it by what is in each individual stockpile, just how many of each individual item I have. I have, let's see, 59 Philosophlower powder. And then you can change what is shown in the upper left here. So maybe I don't need to see light meals and regular meals anymore. I just have 3,752 large meals for my gnomes to eat, which is what they prefer to eat. They eat fewer large meals if you have them available. Third tab is all about the gnomes in your population. So you have just quick overview how many of each kind of job you have. You have the actual gnomes and their assigned jobs. You can change this at any time. It didn't show the scroll bar until I started scrolling with my mouse wheel. So then what the jobs are is in this tab. So what does a farmer do? Well, they do the farming tasks. They don't do the cooking or the brewing. That is what chefs and brewers are for. So, and then if any of your gnomes have died, they'll be on this tab. I hate when my gnomes die. Cozy gamer. The goal is to keep everyone safe. So, the fourth tab is the military tab. This is where you would make squads, and this is where you set like uniforms and who has what job. I was going to do a playthrough where I actually had to use this for a change. I use the uniforms all the time. Sometimes you can set, just like if you want to be like, all my tailors wear this and all my miners wear that, so that you can see what a gnome is by just giving them a uniform. I've done that in the past, but I don't usually do the military thing, so when I start an actual playthrough, I was thinking I'd try and actually capture my own spiders for a change to get silk. So we might have to fight some spiders before we can capture them. This is an events page that just lists interesting things that happened. Merchants arriving, when your gnomes start creating legendary level items, food, drink, lace, any, and when animals are born, that will be here. And then if there is combat, there'll be a literal blow-by-blow list of the combats that happen. Help. I have not clicked on this tab in a really long time. But it's here if you need it. It gives you little articles that you can read if my tutorial is not enough. So then down at the bottom, you have your toolbar, taskbar. You can hover over it to get a brief description of what they all do. So the first one, terrain, is for mining, digging, taking up floors and taking out ramps, and also, strangely, the builders, so that's like mining. Then the builders, like if you mine out and you have dirt floor and you want to replace it with stone flooring, and same thing for the walls, you have dirt walls and you want to replace them with a different kind of wall that's prettier, or at least more valuable, then that's here. And then you have filling holes and just, so if you haven't mined something, nope, not that one. If you haven't mined something, then it's just going to grayed out. You don't know what it is. So that's, some of these things also have submenus. So you can mine the wall, you can mine stairs up, or you can mine a ramp up. So that would be, if I clicked mine stairs up, it would take this, turn it into a staircase that goes up to this level, and it would automatically take out the floor here. Same thing it would do a ramp. Ramps have to have walls to lean against, so if you take out a wall supporting a ramp, the ramp will automatically come out. And then dig has the other thing. You can dig a hole, so you would if you were standing here, you could dig a hole down, and then there would be a hole there from the top. And then stairs, dig stairs down, so standing here, you could put it here, and then that would become a stairwell. Same thing with ramp. So that's sort of, this level goes up, or this level goes down, are those first ones. Remove floor literally has your miners come along and take out flooring. So now those strips of floor there'll just be an opening there, so that this space is, as you can see, double height. And then again, replace wall and floor. So that's the terrain menu. Then we have the agriculture menu, and this is all about farming and ranching. So you place your above ground farm here is the first one in the agriculture submenu. Underground farms have to be covered. They can't have sunlight can't have access to them, and they have to have mud, which is a long process that I will show in a playthrough. And then back up top, you have to have grass, and you put your pastures in the grass. So then you can keep different kinds of animals. The pastures will basically show you the list of all the available animals, most of which you have to trade for. But like I said, I'm going to see if I can learn how to capture spiders eventually. So then groves, instead of growing plants like wheat and fruit and vegetables, these guys need to get turned back on. You can grow trees, either for wood or for fruit or for like pine resin. We use that for glue in this game. Or for maple trees, give you maple syrup, which is how you get sugar. To be fair, you can also press beets into sugar, but I usually end up needing the beets for vegetables. And you can have a fairly large number of maple trees to get a good amount of maple syrup. So then those are the first four basically are your different types of designation areas: farm designation, pasture designation, grove designation, underground farm designation. The next 4 are action items. So you can take tree clippings. I have some birch ones down here that I'm using for decoration purposes. A cat has arrived, but you can choose. It'll tell you how many of each clipping you have, 201. So I could plant some birch trees in the open space between my groves. So that's one way you can actively tell your gnomes, I want to plant trees in this area. So if you were going to make designs out of your different types of trees and all the different colors, you could do that if you didn't necessarily want to farm the trees. You can also take clippings, which gives you the clippings that you then plant to make new trees rather than getting seeds, and then you can chop trees. So let's see. Yeah, so these guys are being automatically chopped because they're in a grove, but if I didn't have a grove, that's how you cut trees down. And then you start with wild plants. This is my ongoing sort of game at the moment, but you can also tell your gnomes, hey, come get some sycamores over here. So they'll forage the fruit off of these trees without cutting them down. They just get the fruit. And that is the agriculture submenu of the user interface. The third one is your build menu. I use that a lot for a lot of things. So I'm making really fancy sort of entire apartment suites for my ambassadors down here, because if the ambassadors don't have a room that's worth at least a certain amount, they get fed up and leave. So I make them fancier rooms with like silver inlaid floors and mahogany floors and lots of extra furniture, so that the rooms have a fairly high value, 53,536 copper for this ambassador's room, compared to my regular gnome's little rooms of 6,534 copper. So the build menu, the first item here is workshops, and these, rather than having submenus, bring pop-ups. So all the different workshops in the like I showed you in the list for your kingdom, your workshops, you can build them through here. The next one is mechanisms, which I have used a little bit, mostly to make pumps to move water around. I didn't need to do it this game, so I don't have any examples. We'll see if we need it in the playthrough. The next one is furniture. This is a list of every different kind of furniture and decoration. It's a really long list. I play with a mod called Tassin's Mods, or Tassin's set of mods. So you can right-click and then get subdivided furniture menus. It makes finding things a lot easier with the right-click soft menu. To find the different individual things you can build. Store it, like anything you can build, you can also get through the right-click soft menu. So that's the furniture pop-up menu. The next is storage, which is just all the different kinds of storage. Again, I usually end up for this using storage, and then it subdivides that into trough is what you put in pastures to give your animals food. Crates hold large loose items, liquids, maple syrup, wine, beer, that sort of thing. Loose items is like tiny, like grains of food grains or grains of sand or those kinds of things. You store those in bags. Bowls, as you can see, they have you can store grains, seeds, sort of small loose things. Miscellaneous or mining is, mostly mine carts, but you can also make coal piles. And then miscellaneous plank piles, where you store planks. Bars, I usually just store them in chests. Block piles only can be stored in blocks can only be stored in block piles. Planks can only be stored in plank piles, which don't hold as much as chests, but it's better than having one plank per square, having 32. And I'll probably, in my playthrough, build one of everything, just so that we can see it. I usually have extra space in my storage levels where we can build stuff. So this is just like when you make clothes, you can actually store them in wardrobes instead of chests. But I think wardrobes hold 12 instead of 64, so it's not very space efficient. I use the wardrobes, let's zoom in on these little rooms, in decoration. So I make little tiny studio apartments These are unfinished. Usually there is, in theory, going to be a wall of bookshelves creating sort of a bedroom behind, and then you have like a living dining area. I'm in the process of making chairs to go with the tables. This is my sort of staging area where the furniture goes before I place it. So I've got most of the colors down, where last 3 colors, and then I can place 120 rooms times 4 chairs is 480 chairs. So that is the first step. That's the storage tab. And then there's terrain, which brings up a sub-menu where you can build walls. So if you mined something or decided you wanted to change a room or make a special room in an open space, you can build walls out of materials, but you don't have to have an existing wall. Same with floors. That space where I'm taking out floor, I could build it back if I wanted to. Build stairs up. So again, if you already mined out the wall and you're like, oh, I meant to have stairs there, you can build them up. So, standing on this level, build the stairs, and it leads you from level 9 to level 8, or you can build from level 8 to level 9. You just have to take out the floor first, and then make sure there's floor below ready for it. Ramps up and down, again, those have to lean against walls, so you have to have the wall to lean the ramp against. You can't just build them floating. Scaffolding is supposed to be temporary stuff, but the gnomes get really confused about it. So if I'm going to build temporary structures, I'll usually just go ahead and build regular stairs and floors and then take them out again. And the gnomes seem to deal with that better. I don't know if that's a programming issue or what, but that's there if you want to try and use scaffolding. So that is your build sub-menu and sub-menu. So your designate area sub-menu is where you place your storage areas, and it's really good to have, in general, as few things stored in one kind of storage space as possible. This storage area is just for dirt, because you take dirt full of like organic matter and all the different kinds, and you filter it down to different kinds of sands, which are over here to make glass. Each individual type of fruit has its own storage area. Individual grains, individual vegetables, milk, eggs, syrups, meats, hides for the leather worker. So I usually have my sort of main production areas in the middle, and then like smaller production areas on the side with their own, like the food, there's so many different kinds of things. This is my food prep area, and it has some storage in, but then these areas are all the food storage for them to easily run and pull from, so it's nearby. And then I have like another storage level down here for things that are sort of finished products that you use to trade. So I have lace, statuettes, jewelry. Oh, look, there's a cat. She came in and I totally forgot to turn her camera on. This is Addie Cat. Everyone meet Addie Cat. And by everyone, I mean, the Void. Addie Cat. The Void says hello. And it's not Pearl in this case. I have a black cat as well. She never comes upstairs. She picked my husband hard. So that is, let's see, stockpiles. And then we have agriculture. It's another way to place those 4 different types. I honestly was reviewing all the UA and totally forgot that was even in here because I always go through the agriculture menu for those guys. Rooms. These are how you designate the individual little, like this is Ego's room. He has a bed and 2 little side tables, a dresser, a wardrobe, a cabinet, and a table, and 2 fireplaces, and a little glass sculpture at the moment. I actually, go ahead and mention this now, made a bunch of info sheets and lists and things that I have linked in my bio to share with you guys. So my room designs, don't click in OBS, click on the actual screen. First stream and all, guys. So I drew little pictures to lay out the rooms. This is an 8 square by 8 square room. And let me zoom out a little. I zoomed in for a different one. These are columns. So to match it, I made the columns. I originally did it in rows, and then it was a mind warp because you look at this and these are in columns, but it was the row going across, going down. So I swapped it around. So now you have this first column is this column. Isn't it great when you realize your error after you've done all the work? So I usually use 8x8 rooms. In this economy, it's so nice to give every little gnome their own little bedroom area and like work area and hangout area, and they've got bookshelves and a piano and a wine bar, potted plants, and then you can squeeze a lot more in if you use the 6x6 rooms, but I mean, that's probably why I was zoomed in. I was typing on these guys. You have the same stuff, just kind of less of it. Instead of two, like your bed's in the corner with one end table instead of, with an end table in the corner. And then you don't have as many as well as for tapestries for decorating, 2 seats at your table instead of 4. But you can get a lot more little gnomes per level. So my 8 has 10 colors, because I like to do rows of colors, because you have all these different wood colors, so you may as well use them. And I like rainbows, because, I don't know, girl, whatever. Don't at me. And then, so the doors, you can color match everything, which my OCD brain loves. And then I also gave you guys the layout for my big 20x20 where they have like a full kitchen, seating for 12, like a formal parlor, and like a library seating area, and like a fountain with glass sculptures and plants, and a giant office with glass sculptures and plants, and like a spa sauna, because there's like little water tubs you can make with like chairs and water tubs and fireplaces, and then a big old bedroom with lots of storage. How are you doing, Natty Cat? Are you bored yet? You're sleepy, huh? And then, so that's one of the, how many times do I have this open? I already had it open right here. So I've also got the UI menu. So I was trying to figure out how the best way to do this was. So going here is the big base menu for the list, and then you can open the various submenus. So submenu, submenu. So that's also all there in Excel form if you can't remember these later. And the way I have, not all of these the keyboard shortcuts are standard. These are the ones that I use. So there's a list of all my keyboard shortcuts, and I will show you how to set that up as well. And then just for decoration purposes, I like to make, again with the rainbows on my storage level, these ones are just kind of getting started. It'll be a rainbow all the way across using the different wood and metal colors. All this mage steel, that's ridiculously expensive and stupid expensive, and because I can afford it, because I don't have to fight monsters, because I turn them off, is the only reason you have enough gnomes and resources to do that. But now that my ADHD brain has kicked off, we can go back to our designate area subgroup. So we were on rooms. So you have personal quarters. So I usually give every individual gnome a room. I'm actually filling this up pretty fast. I'm in year 27 and I'm already down to this last little bit. I also usually, where is my mouse? I think my mouse needs new batteries. I turned it off and turned it back on again, and there we go. But I also usually designate a small number of them to be a dormitory area, so that, no gnome will come in here and sleep except Ego. Whereas this, when your merchants come to do trading, they need somewhere to sleep too. So this is sort of like your little hotel room. And if you get new gnomes, on the first day of every season, some gnomes might show up. When you get new gnomes, if you forget to give them a room, this is a place for them to sleep until you get around to giving them rooms. I mean, there's also just random beds around. I dug this out and went ahead and got started on that. Mostly because I had extra beds, and if you place them instead of keeping them in storage, it gets them out of the trade list, and it's less stuff to scroll through. So I usually, when I have extra furniture, go ahead and have this room going. So these beds exist as well. They're just not designated as dormitories. So if the dorms were filled, their beds other gnomes could come use. I'm using a lot of dirt at the moment, so I went ahead and started digging out this level as well. I usually put my dormitories in the dirt levels and then dig down to the stone to get the different stone colors, because one level is one color stone, so you have to dig down through the levels to get the different colors of stone. Let's see. My general goal, or my long-term goal, one thing I really like to do is you make a dining room. But one dining room can be designated as the Great Hall. So my goal, and I've done it one time, I've succeeded, and not getting annoyed with the game because I killed gnomes because I wasn't paying attention or whatever, where I think it was on a slightly smaller version of the map, so I didn't have to do as much mining. I dug out everything below my storage level at level 8, all the way down here where you can see, starting in the corners, I make sort of like the John Hancock building in Chicago where I've got these staircases that make a shape. So where they meet down here on level 32, dig out all those levels, pull up all the floors so it's a big 20-something story, like 9 through 31 are just open. I think I made it around year 80. I wasn't going too hard on this one because I was kind of using it to make my lists for what I might want to talk about here on stream. But I've got here at year 27 almost a fairly, maybe half of the floor. Let's see, we're at 70 by 70 of 128 of 128 covered in platinum. So this room with nothing in it except some platinum flooring is worth 2.3 million copper. And when you actually designate it as the Great Hall, you get more gnomes. But I was trying actively not to get a whole bunch more gnomes because it slows the game down if you get too many gnomes too fast. So I haven't designated. So you can set other dining rooms, but once you've designated a Great Hall, the gnomes don't hang out anywhere except the Great Hall. It's the only bad thing about having your Great Hall be on level 32. They have to come down that many staircases to go hang out in the Great Hall. And then a hospital, which I have done before. There's not one in this particular game. Again, because I just turned the monsters off, so I don't have to fight them. Oh, I have not turned off the info sheets. Sorry, first stream and all. I don't know how much of that you could see, because I was looking at the game and not at OBS. But yeah, so level 32 with all the platinum. I guess that's slightly more than half. 128 times, oh yeah, you can see my calculator too, I guess, if you want, is 16,000 squares, and then 70 times 70. Oh, it's like a quarter. Of course. So I've still got some platinum to go. I trade for platinum, so I'm using the stone to make statuettes I can trade, and lace I've got making wool into lace that I can trade. I'm also, my alchemist is actively going up the chain, making copper into tin, tin into silver, silver into lead, lead into gold, and then silver and gold together make platinum. So I'm also working on making platinum through the alchemist. So I buy everything on that chain. I skipped the copper because I had like 3,000 bars of that. Oops, not this. That's the forge where you make ore into metal bars. This is where I'm storing the metal bars. So you can see I right-clicked on the storage and it brought the storage pop-up. Alternatively, you can left-click on the storage and it'll tell you there's a granite engraved floor here. And on it is the metal storage area. And then you can left-click on that to bring up the pop-up. So I currently have just under 2,000 copper bars. So if I gets down back to under 1,000, I'll start buying copper again. But when I mine, you get a lot of copper, tin, copper, malachite, coal. So anyway, lastly, that's the last thing you can designate. It needs like beds, and that's where you would keep your bandages and stuff. So a guard area. So some monsters will pop in unguarded, like down here in the depths. The deeper you mine, the stronger the monsters are when you don't have the monsters turned off. So you would probably want to make your staircase very guarded. Another good reason to take out the floors is if there's no floor, they can't pop in there. So then you'd have below level 32, you would guard on 32 or 33 the staircase, and things that tried to come up from the depths would not be able to. There's lighting, and the lighting, I don't think things can pop in where it's lit. So these floors obviously are fully lit because they're my full production areas. This is where I do the trading. But these floors I just got, I'm going to take them all out, so I just have this central staircase where I've also made the floor a little bit pretty. You know, it's a kind of a four-way helical spiral where, you know, this guy goes down to this guy who goes across and then around. So I've got a little bit there of lighting. And then I haven't done the lighting in here yet. I've been really picky this particular game. I don't think once it's installed it'll tell you, but there's a quality level in the game. So there's 6 quality levels. There's poor, average, fine, superior, masterful, and legendary. So when I was talking earlier about when someone makes something legendary, I usually or used to just get rid of the fine and average stuff and take the sort of top 4 levels, but this time I was like, no, my gnomes deserve better. So it's only superior, masterful, and legendary that's getting placed. So, like, I make a chair, this fancy bloodwood chair, a superiorly crafted fancy bloodwood chair. But, you know, all of the ones that were in sort of the bottom 50th percentile are being scrapped and turned into So you have smelters, which he's working on the chairs, so opalwood scraps. That's 2 chairs that did not turn out. So then they'll come over here and be burned and turned into coal, which I can then use to make metal bars out of ore that I either mined or traded for. And then the last designated area is a patrol route, which again you would make in the military tab. You'd make little squads, and then you would make patrol routes, and your squads would go around the patrol routes for if you have monsters turned on. And like I said, when I'm going to start an actual game, probably next week, depending on how long it takes my ADHD brain to get through all of the tutorial stuff I made lists for. Probably not more than 2 weeks worth of tutorial. So after your designated area, we're on 4 of 5, but none of the last 3 tabs have no submenus, so it gets much easier. So job, this is very straightforward. If you have asked them to, say, mine stuff, you can suspend the job. So, like, oh, I do want you to do that, but maybe there's something else I want you to do right now instead. Like this room you haven't even started on, so don't worry about it. So now they'll just ignore this job. It'll be like it's not even there. And then you can resume the job. So then you're like, okay, whatever other thing I needed you to do is now it's back on your to-do list. So they usually just do whatever the literally nearest thing is. So one of the ways, like I said, sometimes if a gnome dies, I'm just like, and I completely start over. One of the ways they can die is when they're mining. If they discover a cave, they can fall in the cave. And if it wasn't such a long fall that they die from falling, which is possible, it may be just they just fell 1 level. The gnomes usually won't get hurt if they just fall 1 level. But if there's no ramp or stairs, they have no way to get back out. They can literally die of thirst or starve to death. So say you're like, oh, a gnome fell. I need someone to go dig a staircase right now before they literally die of thirst. You could suspend everything except for that one, dig the stairwell down to get them out, or ramp, and then resume everything. And then, of course, the last one is to cancel the job. So again, you click on it, it gives you your little thing, and then you would highlight whatever you wanted to click, and then say, oh, no, I didn't mean to cancel that. For any job that you've selected where it's like, oh, I'm highlighting stuff to cancel, instead of left-clicking to do the cancel, you can right-click to cancel your cancel. So that's the entire job submenu. So these last ones do not have submenus, so they'll go through pretty quickly. So I noticed down here, someone was carrying basalt, and then they probably got thirsty or hungry, and they just put it down right where they were standing. Let's zoom in. So this is just some raw stone, some raw basalt right here. It's a pile of 60, just bought out of 64 total that they can stack in one place, raw basalt. I think the basalt stuff is full, which might be part of why they didn't clear it. We'll give them 1 more so they can clean it. So then you would click clean floor, and they would. So now it's it's yellow for like a job that needs to be done, and then it'll turn green when a gnome has claimed that job. They have a little hive mind. They all know what each other are up to. So then it turns green. The gnome took the basalt down to the basalt storage. I'm going to get rid of that now with my cancel using the X keyboard shortcut. Again, I made a link in the bio to the folder where I made all of my info sheets. It has the keyboard shortcuts and the list of menus and submenus. So if you can't find something, you can go to my Excel spreadsheets and search for it. Let me zoom back out. There were also some seeds up there. I wonder if the Flower seed bags are full. Oh, there's not. All right, so we'll do it again. So I use a V, like they're vacuuming the floor. There were some seeds right there. I looked at them earlier. They're Flower seeds. Flower seeds. V for vacuum. And now they'll take those up to the little Flower seed storage area on level -1, which is my underground farm level. Zoom back out. She's picking them up in a bag. There's different hauling things. Mostly, you usually end up starting with wood. Here is the carpenter's bench, or a workshop. So you would use either for things that are sort of what that you would store in a crate. You would use a wheelbarrow to move those around, so you would carry so that you can carry more than one at a time. Liquids you carry in buckets and then take to your brew keg. So this is where I store my drinks. So I have about 380 of each different kind of wine, beer, and you make tea out of mushrooms. So, 480, excuse me. They're probably making rye beer right now. So that's how you clean the floor. If your gnomes, like I said, get distracted in the middle of carrying things around, they will literally just put it down where they're standing, and if there's nothing else to carry, they will eventually get around to it, but it might be a while. So deconstruct. Say you've built something you don't want there anymore. So this, to make these fancy tables, is where I made storage areas for the tables so that then I could take the wooden tables and inset a glass top to make fancier looking tables. Framed glass tables in the Glassworks. Framed glass table again. I'm right clicking to directly bring up the pop-up menu, but if you forget, you can left click on any of the 9 squares that make up the workshop. Oh, you're leaving, Annie? Thank you for not stepping on my keyboard. I appreciate you. She'll probably be back later. And then from there, you can see what kind of flooring is under it, and then open the Glassworks and pop up from there. Framed glass tables, so that they would be directly underneath and closer to, because it takes less time if they don't have to travel as far. I could take out, like these staircases, again, I added them just to provide really quick access to this area, but I could deconstruct any one of these staircases, or the floor. I'm going to use a keyboard shortcut C to cancel the deconstructing of those because I want to keep them there for now. Very last thing is remove designation. So that is if you've designated a stockpile or a farm or a pasture or an underground farm or any of those things that you have decided, I don't need this farm anymore. You would then use remove designation. It's an X, so I made the keyboard shortcut X. And then you would highlight whatever you want to get rid of. Or say a gnome died and so their room is now vacant, but you don't want anyone else to sleep there until a new gnome comes in. So you can also remove the designations of the rooms. So anything that is a designated area, patrol routes, you would use this, and that is the tool menu, toolbar. So there are, I've been mentioning them, a bunch of different kinds of workshops. The first thing So there's like stonemason things where you either carve raw stone into stone blocks and then make the blocks into different kinds of furniture, or carve them into statuettes for trading, or you take logs of wood and mill them into planks, and then the carpenter shop uses those, or the wood carver. Kitchens and stoves and ovens are, the cooking implements. The distillery, probably the most important, where you make wine, beer, and tea, is one of the things you definitely, usually it's build the stone, because you have to have the stone to make saw blades to make the mills, and chisels to make the carpenter and wood carvers. So it's stone, wood, and then you use the wood and stone stuff to make the distillery. Once you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, it's like one of the first 5 workshops you'll build. And then your metalworking, you've got furnaces and a forge where you make the bars, and a blacksmith where you make tools, and smelters is all of the different items you smelt if they aren't a good enough quality. And then a metal worker where you make fancier things like the mine carts for storage, or safes, although just piling all your coins on the ground is more storage efficient than putting them in stuff. You can get 128 coins in a pile, but only like 32 coins in a safe. Maybe if you had monsters turned on, I know that sometimes goblins will tunnel in and maybe steal stuff. So maybe if they were in a safe, they would not be able to steal your coins. But I turned that off, so that'll be something we'll have to play with if I keep speaking into the void. So those are the 4 central items. Again, around over here, I mostly have food storage. This is meat, so I have the butcher shop here feeding into the meat storage, where it then goes across the way to be cooked. And then keeping things together, this is where the hides go to be around the leather worker. You use the leather to make bags to haul things like cotton and seed grains. So that's how you get bags. So this is the glass area. So you have the refinery where you take dirt and sift it into the different levels of sand. So the 3 levels of sand, sort of a rough sand gets you green glass. It's got a lot of impurities. It's not very clear. Clear glass, you filtered it one more time and you get smooth sand. For the highest quality, to make crystal, you need silica sand, where you've literally gotten anything organic or not silica out, to make crystal. It's actually less clear because it's iridescent, kind of. So far this game, I've made some glass walls out of crystal for these little water storage areas, which are mostly just left over for decoration. Some doors, some crystal glass door worth 198. I don't know why once you build it, it won't show you the quality any longer, but higher quality items are worth more. 198. Hopefully it wasn't the same one. This one's definitely different. 198. 297. So this is probably, if not a legendary door, a masterfully crafted door, and these guys are probably superior. 198. So I thought, different kinds of doors. So you come into like the little dining area. There's the formal parlor, but you can see into it with glass doors. You can see into the office with a glass door. I figured I'd have the desks where you could see out. And then, like I said, this will eventually be like a kitchen area. I've got some crystal glass canisters for some grains and some flowers, mostly for decoration. Even though they have like kitchen sink, kitchenware, kitchen tables, the cooking actually happens down here in the workshops. Stoves, ovens, kitchen workshop tables. I have a bunch of them so that you have different jobs, so that you can have more than one gnome doing the same job. So I have half of the fancy torts, which is you make a cake and then you put jam on it for frosting, which is the best quality food you can have. So I have half the fruits in this table, half the fruits in this table, and then in a different order, I think this was like in order of just like how I found the fruits, just whatever they were in the fruit list. Excuse me, and then I did alphabetical, so that there's 4 gnomes who can make torts out of cakes and jam at the same time. So it's sometimes worth having more than one of the same kind of workshop. Again, I have 8 sawmills, 4 are turned off using that suspend, or you can suspend it in the pop-up menu on this tab, the overview tab, versus the craft tab. And then you can resume. This is individual. It only changes the 1 if I unclick that. Or you could do all 4 of them at the same time using these. So I think all of my storage chests, yes, all of my storage chests are done. I'm working on increasing storage in this area. So another benefit to using the right-click soft menu for storage is that you can place multiple at the same time. So I've got 11 crates to place, and it'll do my counting for me, 1 by 11. So that'll place all 11, whereas if you come through build, store, chest, it only lets you place 1 at a time. I'm pretty sure that is something that the Tassins mods add, is this right-click soft menu. Wouldn't know how to play without it anymore. I've gotten so used to having basically all of my toolbar, mostly the build stuff, but sometimes, you can come up here and go, I want to remove, build, or replace a floor. It's just organized a little bit differently. So, keyboard shortcuts. So I've been right-clicking and dragging to move the map around, but you can also use WASD to pan. What I thought the hide key did, but apparently is different. So this area I haven't discovered yet. If you hit E, it turns all the undiscovered areas off so you can see through them, which I actually find kind of confusing, because I found these. So this is kind of the outline of this, like vertical cave here, this cavern, but there's actually stuff around it. I actually find that a little bit confusing, so I almost never use that unless I've accidentally hit that key instead of F, which F, this is a key I use all the time. So right now the walls are down, so I can see into the rooms, so I can place the furniture along this back wall, but you can also, the walls are up, so you can see what the walls look like. So it's a smooth basalt wall with mahogany, sort of a wainscot, or, like with a, so the bottom half of the wall is covered in mahogany paneling, and then you have smooth basalt walls, but with them down, you can only kind of see the smooth basalt instead of the mahogany. That adds a little bit of value to my little rooms. Oh, this is the jeweler's room, Castle Pinky. He pops up a lot in the bottom left here. There are pop-ups. Let's let the game run for a second. See if any things that would appear in the event menu will also pop up in the lower left here when they happen. So he's my jeweler. He's made a lot of legendary jewels, so I have learned his name out of the 88 gnomes I have. Like I said, it gets a little bit slow when you have a lot of gnomes, so I'm having to click and kind of hold the buttons to zoom or move because it's trying to keep track of all 88 of those gnomes and what they're doing at the same time. See, Ristelva, my brewer, has created a legendary rye beer, so that is the kind of pop-up you'll see down here. If a gnome dies, you'll see a pop-up down here. Like it would say Ristelva has died of thirst. Obviously, that would be quite funny since they're the brewer, but not funny, haha. So any event that would pop up in here, if a merchant appears, it would, that's the thing that will pop up. And if some of them that have these little squares, it'll take you to the place where it's happening. So you could be like, okay, in this pasture, it's centered it on the pasture where the yak was born, where the alpaca was born. So if a merchant arrives, it'll take you to the square they are have arrived at, so you can see what they look like, because I currently have 5 or 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 allies. So I have 5 different places merchants can come from, and sometimes they're here at the same time. So here is a merchant from the Land of Brews. She is thirsty. When the merchants are here, they'll usually grab at least one drink, one food, and have at least one sleep in your dormitory before they head back out. So if they come in, you usually have about a day and a half to trade with them before they go back home. So if you're doing something and you don't want to leave the game paused, or you're trying to, like, oh, I want to finish this because, you know, like the lower quality fancy tables, I'm trading to someone who'll pay a lot for them to build up my coins to buy other stuff with in the future, because I'm only a quarter of the way done with my platinum down here on the bottom floor. Not the bottom floor, but floor 32, negative 32. This is not. Anyway, so Land of Brews. They are a forester. We can see that here under diplomacy. Land of Brews, forestry camp. So they sell, right-clicking on the marketplace to bring up the trade menu. So they mostly sell, they have lots, I've already done a trade with them, but they would normally have the most valuable coins, crystal. They sell animal meat, bones, and hides, because they do like they do wood and trapping. So that's where you get spiders normally, and some of the more the aggressive animals that would attack your gnomes, you can get them here as pasture animals. I know you can make cages and cage traps, so that's what I said, when I'm going to do an actual playthrough from the beginning, you can get the different colors of wood in a log form, occasionally plank form, or clippings. I already have all the clippings I need, so I've already, again, traded already. I think I got some she oak, which are the orange logs. That is another list I have made in the... I'm not used to talking this much, apparently. I've made, let's see, food produce. So I've got alphabetically the different kinds of food. I've got non-food items, so I've got the woods list here, along with the color they make. Hello, Addie. Please don't step on my keyboard, and please don't knock over the microphone. I would appreciate that. So the full list of trees here, there are tabs on this one, so the different kinds of fibers, like 2 you plant, and 3 come from animals. So cashmere you only get from goats. I usually don't bother with cashmere. Silk only comes from spiders. Oh, paste. Should be pasture. Alright, that's fixed now. Thank you for helping me find typos by me reading it to you. Best rubber ducky ever. And then wool comes from either camels or yaks. Camels you have to trade from the agricultural. So yeah, there's little information there that, you know, might be useful to someone who's like, where does this come from? Addie, will you get in your cat bed, please? Instead of walking around my keyboard, I'm afraid you're going to, like, oh, now she's rubbing her face on my monitor. Yay, more Addie spit to get on my monitor. So, again, just the list of plants, like farms, groves, underground farms, so that's all there for you. My rainbow chest list, because that's something I have to keep written down. I'm always like, wait, what's the next row? What color wood and what color metal comes next? So rather than having it on a piece of paper, now I have a list. Also, that's nice. The room designs I showed you guys, UI menus, keyboard shortcuts. I might make more lists. I'll put them in this folder so that there's one link that leads you to this Google Drive folder for your use. let me turn that back off. We can go back to talking about various things in the game. So, in order to make trades, say I wanted these cherrywood logs. It's highlighted here in the red, or the birch planks, whichever. You would use these arrows to move them. Oops, see, I accidentally double-clicked and moved the apple clippings. I don't want the apple clippings. So they are highlighted, and I will use this arrow to put them back. So this is the bridge connecting this is what they brought, and this is what you're going to buy. And then you have to do the same. This is the list of every tradable item anywhere. There's a lot of them. Crystal glass, like everything from the crystal glass tiles that I use to make walls, to food, drinks, the wheelbarrows, the trinkets and things are more at the top, so that's easy to find. So the statuettes. I've got these lapis lazuli statuettes in various poor, average, fine, superior, masterful, legendary qualities. Lace, silk tapestries, and then all the different kinds of planks and things. So I could trade them. Well, let's do this. Let's put this back. Make the silliest trade ever. 25 birch planks, but for them it costs 2.5. Whereas my birch planks are only worth to them 1. So I can't give them 25 birch planks to get 25 birch planks, because their value is 62 and my value is only 25. And I can't make the trade because their value is so much higher than mine. So I would have to give them 25 birch planks and also give them, let's see, like 4 statuettes to get, now the trade is available. That would be a silly trade to make, though, so I won't do it because I am not silly. Haha. So that's how you make trades. So in order to get merchants, though, first you have to have allies. And as your kingdom grows, you'll find more and more allies. And what kind of ally they are is completely random. You'll start with one merchant city-state, and then these goblins that are nearby that I've turned them off so they don't bother me. But you could send them a tribute or insult if you wanted to make war with tribute to get them to leave you alone, or send insults if you're like, I don't care, whatever. But again, I've turned, in this game, monsters off, so the goblins don't bother me. So I've gotten a lot of foresters, like a lot, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But I do have at least one of every kind. So I've got merchants, foresters, agricultural settlement farmers, and miners, mining colony. So what they give, again, you can hover over. So the merchants bring a little bit of everything. They've got woods, they've got stone, they've got metal, they've got fibers, they've got fabric, they've got food. Goblins, raid and destroy, if you have them turned on. Foresters, what I just showed you, they have meats, hides, bones, some scrap metal, captured wild animals, and then it tells you what they'll pay a little more for. So hovering over things is also very useful. And then agriculture settlements, where you get domesticated animals and then all the different kinds of foods. So seeds. I've already got all the different types of plants and trees, so I don't need them as much. But they also really, really like furniture. So I make a lot of money selling my lower quality furniture to these farmers, and I'm really sad that I only have one of them. There was one game when I had like 4 farm settlements that I was trading with, when I literally filled this entire 25 by 25 minus the middle square. So like 624 squares, all of it was full of crystal coins, which are worth 100 copper coins. The scarletite is bright red, that's worth 50. The copper is a duller color. Let's see if I can find the copper pile. I usually, if I don't want to trade anything else, if you've got crystal coins, I'll trade. Oops, that's why it was being slow. It was trying to open the coins menu. The more stuff's in a storage area, the slower it is to open the menu. See, this one's a little bit orangier, and this is a little bit more red. That's the copper coins, and these are the scarletite coins. So yeah, I usually trade lower value coins for those crystal coins so that they don't take up as much space. The more stuff you have, the slower the game goes. So it just slowly gets slower and slower and slower. And then usually about the time I've mostly finished building what I was going to build anyway, the game is going so slowly that it's time to start over. Dwarf Fortress seemed to do that as well. It may have been a little more efficient and didn't run out as quickly, but I don't think the developers on this game are doing any more updates, so it kind of is what it is. Luckily, they're mods. Oh, you probably don't need to see the calculator anymore. I'll get the hang of this eventually. But Addie's back, so you can look at her. She's very cute. I love her a lot. She's my buddy. Let's see, what else? Farming, production, storage, rooms, decorating. So, these rooms are maybe a third of the way done. My little wood carver's making some fancy wood chairs. Again, we'll probably do a playthrough where I come down here on my storage level where I have empty areas to grow into. We can build all kinds of stuff down here just to look at them and see how much storage all the different storage types have and that sort of thing, what they look like. So, this is I'm not doing very good progress on this one on my rather ridiculous Great Hall. If it's little, it's not great. Now, isn't that right? So it's a whole level, and it's going to be, let's see, what's 31 minus 9? 22 stories tall ceiling, eventually one day. I was lucky in this game, though, because the blue stone here, the lapis lazuli, can be carved into a semi-precious gem, and so can this green stone serpentine be carved into jade. So it's pretty convenient that, because the merchants trade extra for gems, they really like gems, so this area's got so much storage. Rather than clicking on the storage, because there's like 20,000 something gems stored in all these chests, you can click on this jeweler's workshop, and then when you want to add gems to something, it lists them all. So about 15,000 each, so 30,000 something of the lapis lazuli and jade, which I've slowly been trading the lower values for. A couple of hundred amethyst and topaz, emerald, sapphires, rubies, diamonds. And again, I have all the gems listed, all the different kinds of gems in that list of non-food items in the Google Drive. So I finally got those gems. My goal is, once this is all covered in platinum, you can actually take the metal floor and have gems inlaid into the metal floor to add even more value. So the platinum floor is worth 480 just for being platinum, and then it will add value to that to make it worth even more. So again, I was getting rid of the lower quality gems so that when I do the gem inlays in the Great Hall floor down here, I will have a higher value because I have higher value gems that I'm inlaying into the floor. Metals the different metal bars, they're just a standard value. There's not like high or low quality metal bars. It's only like goods that, those are uniform. Gems, how well are they cut, matters. So my jeweler has done a lot of gems, because I have already gotten rid of, I'll just show you here the easiest way to see it is here in the merchant's window. Come down here. Oops, I passed them. All these legendary cut gems. I've got over 1,000 legendary cut jade, almost 900 legendary cut lapis lazuli. Again, they've cut thousands upon thousands of these. stones into gems. I've already traded away every single poor, average, or fine cut gem. Every gem in there is superior or higher. And these are the values these guys, the foresters, will give for the gems. Let's see. The lowest here is 24 copper for the lapis lazuli and jade, which are just, semi-precious cut. And then you've got the precious stones, which are worth double. And the merchants pay about double that. So these are maybe 36, maybe it's 50% more for the gems. But I've already traded all of that away, and now I've started, since I finished, let's let this close. The only thing I really use the malachite for, since it's not in the platinum chain, I go ahead and make my coal storage out of the platinum. I've already got all the coal storage I need. So I started converting the malachite into necklaces. Let's see how many I've got, how much metal I have, if they're done with that. They're not quite all the way finished with that. So from here, I just told them repeat, but do not craft ingredients. So that it will automatically, if it can, at the alchemist's lab, if there's a way to make like say I had said copper, they would automatically convert, or tin, they would convert copper into tin automatically unless you click, as long as this accept generated jobs is clicked. So it will, because I have remembered to click do not craft ingredients, if it were a type of metal that the alchemist could craft, he would craft more and more and more of them until I ran out of the stuff to make them. And then anytime I got more of the stuff to make the tin or the silver or the gold, it would make more of it, and then the jeweler it would just be a cycle of me never being able to keep that kind of metal in stock. But I don't need to have malachite in stock, so I'm converting them to necklaces, and then I'll do basically the same thing, where I say you can take all the topaz and put them on these malachite necklaces, repeatedly craft them until you're out of the topaz, and then I'll set it up for, I'll go ahead and do that. Craft, oops, I double clicked again. I get a little excited sometimes. So anytime we get topaz, if we have the malachite to craft necklaces, we'll craft the necklaces. And then anytime we have some topaz and a malachite necklace, they'll make it into a topaz necklace, or a malachite necklace with a topaz gem. Same for the amethyst. So I'm pretty much just going to use, since I can easily do a pattern, with the two, I was probably just going to do like a checkerboard pattern, a nice simple 2x2, starting, at the center line here, because this is the very center point of the map. I did the math. These are centered. So then, starting here would be 2x2, and 128 is divisible by 4, so I can very easily let's go ahead and see what that looks like. Gemmed metal floor. We want platinum. It's already there. The benefit of doing the platinum first is that the very first one, they'll bring a platinum bar down and then go get the gem. But the second one, they'll have taken up a platinum bar, so they'll have it on hand. So I selected all my stuff. It gave me this little guy. I left click to start selecting. You could make all kinds of pictures. So I'm just placing some platinum and lapis. Oops, I've gone off somewhere. We'll come back to that. Oh, I wasn't quite in the right spot. I see now. That's all right. We'll fix it later. So now my little builder gnomes are going to come down here. They're each going to bring a platinum bar and then run back and get a gem, which is, again, why, in general, this is like a one-time thing, but things you're going to do over and over and over again, I try and have the storehouse very near to the workshop or the whatever is going to be doing it. So now you can see, rather than the plain platinum floor, which is worth 480, we have a gemmed platinum floor with 720. Okay, I think I see the problem with my pattern. This is a 4x4 square, and so I've set that one off by 2, so that one really should only have had 2 if this is the center. But that's alright, I was just showing you guys. And I'm not really ready to do the whole pattern floor anyway. But because the platinum's already there, see all these little platinum bars that are just sitting there? They've pulled up the old platinum and put down new platinum. And now we've gained a little value. I don't remember what it was before. I think that's probably a lot of information for a first tutorial. There's so many different... That's at least gets you an idea of how to interact with the game. Next week on Sunday, I'll start a new game from scratch so you can see how I build everything up, how I do my damnedest not to kill gnomes, by letting them fall from multiple stories, or drown, or starve to death because they got themselves stuck. Very low-level builders, when building fireplaces, will sometimes just build themselves into a fireplace and be stuck, and if you don't notice, they will literally die of thirst or starve to death because they built themselves into a fireplace. So they're very silly, and you have to watch them carefully. I'll show you how I do my water collection so that my entire first underground level is all mud, and I have so much underground farm. That is, in-game, about an 18 to 20 year process, but in the end, you have all the underground farms you could possibly want. And you know how you can see how I lay everything out. I've developed this process. This size map is exactly right to have these 25 by 25 squares with this 25 by 25 little notched area around the central space with exactly 4 spaces. I took out the very outer edge so that, because again, I'm always making up stories about the gnomes so that you've got airflow all the way down to all these levels, but I have to do it from the top down to make sure that they don't fall to their deaths by falling 9 stories. This is not the Great Mouse Detective. But that is enough to interact with the game if you've never pulled up Gnomoria before. At least you know about where to find the information you're looking for now. And I'll see you guys next week to start a whole new game. Bye!